just been away on holiday, but before I went on holiday, which was last Sunday, which was the 10th of October, I went to see a special screening of the new David Fincher movie, The Social Network. I went with a couple of friends of mine, and effectively, you know, as the adverts show, I mean, you know, it's about the founding of Facebook. It's about how Facebook was initially set up, whose ideas it belonged to, and basically what went wrong whilst the lives of these people that invented this new website not only change in such a drastic way, but you know how they change as people as well. Now, one thing that needs to be said about this is that everything in the movie needs to be taken with a pinch of salt. There are things that are well documented. There's the very beginning. There's the moment where Mark Zuckerberg, who's played very, very well by Jesse Eisenberg, you know, breaks up with his girlfriend. I mean, that sort of stuff is well documented. The fact that he writes this stuff in his blog, because obviously it could be found on his blog around that time. There's also his publication of a website called Face Mash, which was done, you know, out of spite. Obviously, what else is fact are the court cases that eventually came out of this. Zuckerberg got sued by a number of people, not least of which is his best friend, Eduardo Saverin. He's played by Andrew Garfield, who will be the next Peter Parker in the deeply unnecessary revamp of the Spider-Man series. You've got the fact that Sean Parker gets involved, who was the founder of Napster. The thing is, though, you do have to take it all with a pinch of salt. Yes, there are bits that are based on fact. There are, you know, character traits that are based on the particular characters. However, I found personally that, you know, I don't know whether anyone else did, but I personally found that I doubted that Zuckerberg really was that much of an arsehole. Taking that to a side, taking everything that's in the movie with a pinch of salt and just going with the film, you actually find that the film itself is actually really good. The problem with The Social Network is that basically the story of its founding had been, you know, quite well documented. You knew that Zuckerberg and all those involved don't speak to each other anymore. You know that no one effectively died because of it. You know that everybody involved has become very, very wealthy. Because everyone knows all this, it kind of comes off as being ever so slightly breezy. Because there's obviously a certain element of fiction within this, and you don't know whether, you don't know what's right and what, what's true and what's not. It's little moments like when Mark Zuckerberg gets a load of business cards that say "I'm CEO, bitch." I can't, although I do want a business card that says "I'm CEO, bitch." Whether that happens or not is debatable. As a character study, it's fine. As a character study, it works very, very well. Jesse Eisenberg as Mark Zuckerberg. He plays Zuckerberg. He initially comes off as an arsehole, and for the most point, he's just a massive mega douche to people. He's horrible. But what also can kind of be brought out of his performance, what he also does is this desperate need to be wanted. He doesn't seem to have much problem in coming across as being a dick, but at the same time, it's almost like it's taking its toll on him. In fact, right at the end, someone says to him, "You're not an arsehole, Mark. You're just trying so hard to be." And that's kind of where the film finishes. Andrew Garfield as Edward Saverin is very, very good, but he doesn't kind of bring as much to the table as you kind of could do, even though you don't know how effectively it gets to the point where Eduardo is suing Mark. You kind of know that some altercation is going to happen. And then when Justin Timberlake rocks up as Sean Parker, the guy who founded Napster, you can kind of see it coming that that's going to be the reason. Now, to Timberlake's credit, he is just a cunt in this film, like a massive, massive cunt. This horrible, horrible person who sees this idea, latches onto the Zuckerberg character, because he just realises that he can make a quick buck out of this and he can make a lot of money. And to be fair, in real life, Sean Parker has made a lot of money off of Facebook. There's a great moment at the end where it cuts to a party that Sean Parker is at, and he gets caught for cocaine possession, which is something that happened in real life. Sean has phoned up Mark, and Mark's sat in the Facebook offices, and Sean is sat in there, is awaiting bail. He's like saying, Mark, we can deal with this. It's fine, it's okay. So even though he knows that he's fucked up, he's still desperately trying to cling on to this. Mark has just sat there, realising that he's probably made one of the greatest errors in his life in hiring this guy that has been caught for cocaine possession, has pushed him away from his best friend, and he's just sitting there looking at this business card that says "I'm CEO, bitch," and there's just a flicker on his face where he kind of sits there and realises, I may have gone a bit too far with this. People talk about it as being a collab, as being a David Fincher movie, but it's as much an Aaron Sorkin film as it is a David Fincher film. It is very much Fincher in style, but the dialogue is very, kind of, this rat-a-tat dialogue. So it's kind of like this mature Tarantino that's very quick, very quirky, very smart. That's the thing. In a recent interview with David Fincher was saying it could come across as being this pretentiously quirky and, self-promoting dialogue. But he said Sorkin writes exactly as he speaks. Some of the dialogue exchanges in this film are absolutely terrific. But Fincher does put his spin on it. The only beef I have with the film really is just how is basically just how breezy it is. The stakes aren't particularly high, and all it boils down to is just a couple of people getting rather beefed about the fact that they don't have their hand in a very, very big pie. Basically, that said, the actual film itself, as a whole, everything about it is expertly done. Even the soundtrack is cracking. I mean, they got Trent Reznor of Nine Inch Nails fame in. The music here is absolutely just spot on. It fits with it very well. It's been called All the President's Men of the Facebook generation. I'd consider it more the Wall Street of the Facebook generation. The story of, greed versus friendship and loyalty has been told a number of times, but not since Wall Street has it been told quite so well. It kind of holds its hands up and says, listen, we are making a movie that's based on around the cultural phenomenon of the time. And, in 10 years' time, it might seem somewhat dated, but we're going to go along with it anyway. You look at a movie like Wall Street, and Wall Street is a product of its time. It only seems dated because the 80s now seem dated. Nothing stays in fashion forever. Facebook could go defunct by tomorrow. But the film is very much making a statement of a phenomenon that happened now, what happened to the people involved, and how even something as fundamental as just wanting to be liked and wanting to be popular can inadvertently do the opposite. I did like it very, very much. I think it's, in terms of Fincher's back catalogue, I think it's about as good. It's probably, actually, I personally think it's probably the best thing he's done since Fight Club. The Social Network will have very, very high replayability, very high replay value. The person I empathised with most was actually Mark. And I think it's a testament to Jesse Eisenberg's performance that he can manage to make someone who comes across as being an absolute cock and actually make him somewhat sympathetic. I mean, despite the fact that I'm complaining about how breezy it is, it does kind of have it does have staying power, and the fact that I'm thinking about it a week after having been on holiday, even on holiday I was thinking about it quite a lot. I'd give The Social Network 4 out of 5. I don't think it's his best work, and I think I'll grow to appreciate it more over time. I recommend it very highly, so go and see it if you can. Anyways, ciao.